Hello and welcome to another IT cul-de-sac tutorial video. Today I'm going to be talking about dusting your computer. Now, why is it important to dust your computer? Well, all electronic components generate heat. So much so inside the computer that many of the parts need to be cooled. Such as the processor or graphics card, they have a massive fan and heatsink on them to keep them cool. Now this fan and heatsink tend to cover up with dust. Okay, so here we have a selection of heatsinks and fans. The one in the centre here is a custom fan for a CPU, for a processor. It's missing its fan section, it's just the heatsink at the moment. Then we have over on the right here a heatsink and fan stock unit off an old Intel processor. And then we have on the left the fan and heatsink for a GTX 560 Ti graphics card. So here I have my very dusty old graphics card. It's had a number of years use and it's definitely suffered for it. Even though it's been cleaned before by me, it's still caked in dust. I haven't done a very good job of cleaning it, I suppose. Here you can see on the fan blades, each one is just completely covered in dust. And that should all be red. Each blade there should be red like the centre, but all you're seeing is the dust. And then on the heatsink itself, which is this object here, you can see dust sat on top of it and dust in between the gaps in between the blades of the heatsink. Now heatsinks work quite simply. Underneath here where the copper bit is the processing unit for this graphics card, and this is the same with the processor actually on your motherboard. Heat's generated by the processor. The heat travels up through the copper pipes, up into the heatsink, and the fan draws air through from the bottom and out the top. That airflow draws all the heat away and exhausts it out the fan. So the dust you see on here is preventing that airflow. Because of the dust, the thing can't work as efficiently. It can't cool as well whilst it's dusty, which means that the object, in this case the graphics card, will work at a higher temperature. This makes it less efficient and it also reduces the lifespan of the product. A really dusty object like this will not last as long as one that is clean and completely free of dust. Okay, so let's talk about what I use to dust inside a computer. I'm going to start with a don't. Don't use a vacuum cleaner. I was taught when I did some of my IT training that static tends to build on the metal edge or plastic tip of a vacuum cleaner. Obviously static electricity is your computer's worst friend. You don't want it anywhere near your computer, as it may well fry a computer component and then you lose hundreds, thousands of pounds worth of computer equipment. So don't use a vacuum cleaner, it's not worth the risk. Also, to be honest, I find them quite bulky. You might knock something inside the case, it's just not practical. The best thing to use is a can of compressed air. This is just an air duster can. Actually this one's from Sainsbury's and it costs £5.99. You can get them online on Amazon, any of the supermarkets or computer retail shops. It's dead easy to pick up. And all it is a can of air. You just squirt it and cold air comes out. You use this to dust the computer. It won't harm any of the components. It's completely safe to use. Okay, so on to actually dusting the computer itself now. So here I have my computer set up. Always unplug your computer completely. Remove all the cables and particularly the power cable. Never have it plugged in and never have it on when you're working inside the case. Also move it to somewhere that's well lit and that's easy for you to work on the computer. That's just general rules for any time you need to get inside the case of your computer. Unscrew the case cover. Depending on the make of your computer, this is either easy or really hard. Most these days come with a quick release system, so it is quite easy to get inside the case. And the cover just pulls away. So now we're in. A quick talk about anti-static precautions. Whenever you're working on the inside of a computer, you risk damaging the components with static electricity. To prevent this, two things you can do. Firstly, and the best method, is to buy a cheap anti-static wrist strap. Straps around your wrist and then you clip it to the computer case and that grounds you to the computer. So any static charge you're holding will be earthed to the computer case safely and won't destroy your expensive electronic components. The other alternative, if you haven't got an anti-static wrist strap or you've forgotten it, is to just touch the metal chassis of the case with your hand. Just do that, and that will also ground you, and you're good to go. Okay, so inside the case, there's usually at least 2 fans. This case has one on the top and one on the back. A lot of cases also have one at the very front, and the job of these fans is to suck air inside the case and exhaust it out the case. So on this particular model, the fan at the top here sucks air in, and then the one at the back blows the air out. In this way we create an airflow through the case, which allows it to be cooled. Because obviously you need an airflow, you need cool air coming in, and then hot air being blown out. Now to talk about airflow just briefly, if you're anal like me, it's a good idea to get the cables moved out of the way and tidied up. It's pretty tidy in this case. You can see we've used cable ties here to tidy up the cables. However, if they are sort of all in a jumble in the case and completely filling it up, they will block airflow. And obviously if they block airflow, the case can't be cooled as efficiently. So if you have a mind, buy a pack of cable ties and just tidy up the cables as much as possible. It's not always that easy inside a computer case. They will be in the way a little bit, but just tighten them up a bit so that air isn't too obstructed getting through the case, because what you really want it to do is the air to come in, catch all the hot air that's coming off of your components and blow it out the back of the case to keep everything cool. Right, so I'm going to demonstrate cleaning the dust off of the graphics card here. Just I thought it's easier to see around the graphics card than it is inside the case, although we'll go through that in a minute as well. You want to use your compressed air, and you just want to do short controlled bursts to clean the dust off. So it's just like that, and you can see the dust blowing away. And just a little burst until you've got rid of it. Just take your time and be methodical with it. It's blowing from the bottom as well. Now, as you blow compressed air, it does actually get colder as you blow it, so just stop it occasionally. It's not a problem. And the same with the fan, you might want to just hold that. And you can see the dust coming off the blades there. And that's all there is to it. Just go around, say take your time until the dust is gone, and that's job done. Okay, so I'm just going to show you quickly dusting actually inside the computer case itself. It's a little bit more tricky when you're having to do it in situ, but you have no other option. So again, with the processor fan here, it's the same thing. Spray the dust on, spray the air on, sorry, into the heatsink and around the fan. Some short bursts, and you'll get rid of the dust on there. It's not actually too bad in here, so we don't need to remove too much, but you can see that working there. Same with the graphics card at the bottom. Spray it into the heatsink to dislodge any of that dust, and that's all there is to it. As I've said before, just take your time, work your way around. You might find with some of the fans that are on the case itself, they can actually be removed from the computer quite easily. If you want to do that and dust them separate to the case, that's absolutely fine. Or again, just dust them in situ with the air. So, I haven't forgotten the laptop users out in the world. Cleaning the dust out of a laptop is possibly a little bit more important because they're such enclosed devices. Dust does tend to clog them up quicker. So it's a little perhaps more important to clean them out regularly, perhaps even more regularly than you would a computer. It's also not as easy. You can't take a laptop apart to do it. So really the only thing you can do is locate the air vents on the laptop. You can see on this one you've got little vented holes, that's for the RAM and that's for the hard drive under there. Don't worry about those too much. What you really want to clean out are these vents, the bigger vents normally on a laptop, and they're the ones that are cooling the graphics card and the processor normally. And it's a lot like the computer case. Just squirt some compressed air into the vent, and depending on how dusty it is, you'll see a whole ton of dust fly out, or you won't. And that's really all there is to it, and that's all you can really do with a laptop. Usually dust on a laptop isn't what's going to break it, but if you've got a high-end gaming laptop, something like that, then the dust will have an effect, and so you should do this perhaps every 6 months. just to keep it running smoothly. So that's been my tutorial video on dusting the inside of your computer. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Feel free to comment, and I hope to see you again soon. Thanks.